Good morning, FlossTube. Pam, stitching between the lines. Today is June 1st, 2020, a Monday morning. It's cold. It was 42 when I got up, and that was warmer than yesterday. So it's been weird because we had like super warm days, record high of 90 something the other day, and now we're like wishing our heat was still on, but so it goes. So today I'm sitting in the living room. We're gonna do a spin around, so I don't know, look around, don't look at it. We'll go really slow. Here's Cooper. Cooper came. I was running the vacuum, and Cooper's afraid of the vacuum, of course. And I also was taking some laundry baskets around to the laundry room, and laundry baskets for some reason make Cooper think of cat carriers, and so, oops, there he went. So those always scare him, so he hears my voice, so he knows I must not be doing anything like serious anymore. So anyway, so we'll just do a quick little, because I know people want to see the house. It's new, of course. We just moved in a little over 2 months ago. We moved the weekend that the world shut down, so that was interesting. We were the last people to get some furniture delivery from Lazy Boy on the Saturday before we moved. Not the last people in their day, but the last day that anybody was delivering or that the store was allowed to be open, or most stores were allowed to be open. I'm not really sure what their status is now. We are waiting to go shopping for a couple area rugs, and we called that store, and they're in the mall, and malls aren't open. But where they are in the mall, they took over where a Pottery Barn was, and the Pottery Barn had an entrance to the store outside the building, like you could go in only just into there. And those stores are allowed to be open if you can access the store from the exterior of the mall, but I'm not really sure. They said no, they weren't open yet. So there's something, maybe they're not really using that space as store space. I don't know. But anyway, so for several months we've been thinking up all the things we'd like to do and not being able to do it. So we're ready to get out there and safely social distance and get some of the fine tuning done, I guess, on the house. But anyway, we are in the living room. I have a chair next to me, so let me slide it out of the way a little bit. We have been in varying places in the house up to now, not the living room. I'm gonna tip up just a little bit so you can see that's our front entryway and our front door, which is actually a double door. You just can't see the other one. Oh, see, I'm never without my Diet Coke in the morning before noon, afternoon, no. So I'm sitting here, sorry. We brought this with us from our old house and replaced the god-awful light fixture that was up there. It was horrible. It really, as strange as it is, it seemed like it had never been cleaned. And I think maybe the glass just changed or got frosty or whatever. I don't know. It was weird. I have this drop front desk that was my grandmother's. It's tiger maple. Can't really tell that from here, but my grandfather got it for her for their first Christmas when they were married. They celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary the month after my husband and I got married, and we've been married 31 years, so it's 80 years that it's been owned by my family. Anyway, so we'll just go around. There's the stairs to the loft. Oh, there is the beam that Cooper gave serious consideration to walking on. Let me see what I can do to make my hand go where the cross, my hand is not going there. So let's just go with it, where it crosses and hits right there. He came along the other side of that rail, that up there, because you go up the stairs, and then this rail on the railing, ledge on the railing, allowed him to think he could step up there, goofball. So we're starting to see into the dining room. These light fixtures are new. You know, the house is only 20 years old, but the style was not working for us. It was a lot of brass fixtures. So we found those online actually, and there's one on the other side of the china cabinet. They look like candles hanging, and that fits the style of the house so much better. Up here in the loft, we sat up there in the loft. I can almost see my desk chair. That big open space is covered in plexiglass. We covered that because we thought that was going to be the problem area. Not everywhere else. I'm sure it would have been, So we have sat on the other side of the couch is the dining room table, straight out into the sunroom where our kitchen table is. So that gives you that, and you can see all the timber frame and the beams and blah, blah, blah. So let's go around to the real highlight of the house is the living room windows that look out over our deck and our lake. I'm going to pick up the iPad just a little bit because probably all you're seeing are big white glary windows. This living room is big enough. We took our chairs that had been in our office in our last house where I generally filmed from my desk, and we faced them out so they look over the water. If there's people here or we're busy, whatever, we can swing those around and they can be part of the living room conversation. So shut your eyes. We're moving. We're on the move. It's sunny, so I'm not really sure. The sun comes, we're looking west, so the sun obviously is in the east. So there's the whole focus of our world. Not sure what you're seeing. Oh, the gazebo. You can see the roof of the gazebo down there behind one armchair. The yard slopes down to the lake and our waterfront, and there's a gazebo down there, and our boat has arrived home, but you can't see that here. It's that little tiny bit of red on the other side of the grill. Okay, so really, really slow. Close your eyes. Even it makes me dizzy. I am sorry. I have a ladder, a quilt ladder. And we're going back to our original spot. Ooh, let's look at this. Touching the Autumn Skies. I stitched that years ago. Let me see, it's probably a year on it. There is, it's in really light thread, so I can't see it. I wanted to start it. I was working on something else, and I thought, let me just start it for a minute, just a little bit. I did not want to put that down. I know it's one of those that's not available. We're moving again, in case you just want to look down. Oh, there's this faux wall that I can't wait to get rid of. That's not tile. That's all just painted, and the mantle was sponge painted to match it. Like, I can't even tell you. All right, close your eyes. Ignore the picture. It's just propped up there. I'll let you know we're back in the car. Okay, we are landed back in the stand, and hopefully that didn't cause anybody any real distress. There's only one more area in the house that's worthy of showing, and that is our basement family room, and we'll do that another day. So let's get down to business. I don't have a whole ton of things to talk about. Just some things. My last video was the morning of May 20th, so it was the last day of Stitch Mania, and I had one more thing I was going to start and work on, and I did that day. My new start was Little House Needleworks Seaside Summer Alphabet. It came with the silk. It calls for a color of silk, and then there's a bunch of buttons down there. I was talking to a friend, we were Zooming, and I'm like, what do you think was in here that made it worth $22? Then we decided it came with the silk, which was a classic Colorworks Chester's blue. And it came with some little, like, mother of pearl buttons, I think they are. So I've had the 1 day's work on it. I said when I was showing this before that maybe I would change it to Lakeside Summer. Well, if anybody has stitched any of Little House's alphabet samplers, you know the whole thing that they do is they take the one letter out of the alphabet that fits in the name, and they use that letter to spell out whatever. In this case, Seaside Summer. So making it Lakeside wasn't really going to work. It wasn't going to require a lot of regrafting and messing around in order to use the L as it fell. It just wasn't going to work. And of course, let me look. There's palm trees. So anyway, that's had a day's work. It's on a piece of I've been saving all the names. I've been doing a really good job, but something might have fallen apart here. It's on something that's kind of a gray wash. Who makes that where it's like painted on one side and not the other? Don't know. And it looks all. There is a tag from a fabric that was in my cart with all my sewing projects that may well belong to this. So anyway. So it goes. I never started this, even though I said I probably would. After working on so many projects, I came to the conclusion that I don't really love 2/2 on 32 count Picture This Plus. No offense, Picture This Plus are my favorite fabric of all time. 32 count though, because when they're dyeing process and maybe the conditioning of the fabric plumps up the fibers, it makes it 2/2 on 32 count a little bulky, and 1/2 isn't enough coverage, especially when you're working on something that's like, it's not a sampler, it's not a vintage. I mean, this is supposed to be old-fashioned looking, but I don't want that real airy look. Sometimes I'm really disappointed in the finished product when it's that kind of the colors just aren't vivid enough. So I had picked out a piece of 32 count doubloon, and I thought, ooh, I'm not sure I'm going to like that. So I'm having a fabric, crisis. I have ordered the called for fabric and pulled out another piece of something else. I don't know what vintage country mocha, which I think if you put it right next to doubloon, you wouldn't know the difference. And probably that's a piece of 28 count, but I haven't come to a decision. The reason I picked in the first place the doubloon was it just made the walls look antique-y and old. So we'll see. I'll let the piece come. It's a piece of gray something or other. That actually does look nice. I've seen people stitching on it. So anyway, I have lots to keep me busy while I'm having that dilemma. So anyway, oh, one thing, okay. Actually, there's two things that people have asked me about, and I forgot last time to show it. And also last time, somebody asked about the quilt that was behind me, and I've done videos in front of that quilt for a while, so I forget that it needs to be mentioned or could be mentioned, or if somebody doesn't watch all the previous videos, they haven't heard me mention it. It is the quilt is called Little Red Barns by The Quilt Company, and I googled it, still available, so you could still get it. It was really fun to make. The instructions were really good. It's the second one by that pattern company that I did. The other one involves houses. It's really cute too. It's put away, it's not out. So anyway, shifting gears, I showed this a couple videos ago, and somebody asked me how I held this, because I stitch in hand. Only out of sheer desperation do I sometimes put something in a frame. But when you stitch in hand, anybody who stitches in hand knows that your back hand and top hand are working together, like as you're twisting the needle and feeling it and manipulating the fabric to make your sewing method or however it is you do it work. It involves two hands. So as soon as you put it in a frame and maybe your hand has to be holding the frame, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. So anyway, I always do everything in hand. So this piece, as I've said a few times when I was working on it, I started with the center so that I could work out both directions and just make sure it was all placed right, whatever. But also, I needed to work out this way first. After I put the center in, I needed to work out what will be the right side of the picture, because I hold my stuff from the left. So what I do is I roll it up. When it's something this long, I roll it up, and I didn't want to roll up already stitched parts. So I roll it up and I get it in my hand. I try to roll it as tight as I can because I'm holding it in my hand. So this was the question: how did I manage all this length? Is it's rolled up, it allows my thumb and behind the piece me to do work to stitch. It was a little tough when I was down at this very end, because not only did I have the whole rest of the picture, I had excess fabric that I didn't want to cut off yet. So it was getting to be a bit of a struggle. So in a piece like this that's so long and thin, I was actually grabbing it from the top or the bottom to hold it and do what I needed to do. So that's how I did that. I am watching for my L&S to open up and feel comfortable having people in. It's the same area where I need to go for something else, and they're not open. Well, they're only open 10 to 2 now. So the fireplace, the people that will remodel our fireplace and put inserts in the other 2. So I will plan to stop and take some framing, this being one of them. So hopefully they're hanging in there, and they'll be there when I need them very soon, when I'm feeling safe and comfortable enough to go out. Still pretty content just to stay home and stay away, be away from people. And then this I forgot to show you. This was a start at the very first Midwest Cross Stitch Retreat, so 2.5 years ago, and I just dragged it along and didn't ever work on it. So it was a whip. It was in last year's Maynia, it was a whip, and I was determined it not be a whip again this Maynia. So I worked on this little sucker and got it done, and then I framed it, and I forgot to show it to you. So it's all that lovely beading. Oh, I love beading. So anyway, there's that. Neglected, I forgot to talk about piece. So Maynia was a success. This is only the second year I've ever done Maynia, and last year in 2019 I did 19 either whips or starts, and then I carried over, I think, at least 6 of my whips in 2020 were whips left from last year's Maynia, whether it was a start or a whip. So I'm kind of working on getting those. I mean, Hawk Run Hollow is not going to be done before next year's Maynia, but I have a small goal on that one. Small goal on Kingdom of Books, like that. I don't try to fool myself into thinking just because that I won't carry into the next year's Maynia, but I'm trying any other thing that was a whip to not carry it into another year. No guarantee. So this was a Maynia start in 2019 and a whip on my Maynia list for 2020. And I was determined that this was going to get finished. I worked on it May 1st so that I could have it available to work on every day, anytime, which I rarely did until this very end. I did a little bit hit or miss on it, but nothing great. Yesterday and the day before and the day before that, when I'm supposed to be working on, I forgot to bring it. Pumpkins, the Lucas piece. I am going to do a separate clip and put that in because that piece can't be forgotten. Jardin Privé, I don't know, Privé in French they would pronounce that. But again, I haven't remembered to ask my daughters how to say it for sure. Hopelessly Off Center, I know. I finished it. It's on some horrible rough linen, and I use those linen DMCs. And it took like more than one skein of everything, which shocked me. It took longer than I ever expected, shocked me. But here it is. As of last night, it is my very first Maynia 2020 piece finished. And it was a whip going into Maynia 2020. So, Maynia, the way I do it, I like that, except that I feel like one day per piece is never enough. So I think to myself, like a piece like this, I'll pick it up and I'll work on it intermixed with the other things, but I never want to put any of them down. I just want to keep working. So that'll take some thought and consideration. But anyway, in June of this year, I'm going to I'm going to pick out things that I think I can finish within a week. And I'm going to dedicate a week to each of them and see if I can't get some more finishes. I feel like it's doable because I didn't start huge giant things, a few huge giant things. A paper fell, I have to pick it up. It's going to be the fabric for this. So this was a Maynia start last year that I never worked on past the first day. So it was another Maynia whip for this year. And I got everything done except last night I picked this up because this will be the first thing I work on this first week of June. I did this stuff, like, right, whatever I've just hidden with my fingers, what I did last night. So everything else I did on its designated Maynia day. It's on a piece of 32 count, picture this plus earthen. It's another one. I don't want to be like sparse with only 1/2, so I'm doing it 2/2, a tiny bit bulky, but I like how vivid the colors are. That's my objective. This isn't meant to be a little wispy picture. So that, I really can't believe that won't be a finish in this week. Now the rest of the things are just what I intend to spend some time on in this month of June. No more than a week each. So, and I really don't think most of these would take a full-on week. So have not worked on it since the day I started it, this Maynia. It's ready to go. It's on a piece of that MCG even weave that I really love. I love how supple it is. And I have Timeless Treasures matching fabric. It was just, I think, happenstance that they matched. I don't think Timeless Treasures based it on anything, but it's just a happy coincidence. So that will be worked on. This will be worked on, and this could possibly be more than a week. Little House Needleworks, Lakeside Lodge on a piece of, picture this, 32 count, picture this plus mellow. This is pretty much the piece that made me say, I just am not loving it. Haven't touched it since Maynia's day. But this is all I did, and this was a full day of work, as best as I recollect. And so I'm skeptical, maybe I can finish in a week, because this is that, and this is a pretty dense. I may be leaving this border off. Sometimes when I'm going to finish something myself, I don't like to have a border on it. It's just that the border's cute, with those acorns and oak leaves. So no full-on conclusion has been reached. I will also work on this, which may or may not be able to be finished in a week. Hindsight's Welcome to the Lake. Maynia start this year. Also on a piece of picture this plus 32 count Regency. And that's all the further I got. I thought if I got all the letters outlined, what is in the letters, I could do each color that goes in the letters across, you know, and then it would make it feel like it was going fast. So I can't really remember the day I worked on this, if those letters took a long time or what. Don't remember. Another Maynia start, which I really think won't take a week to finish. Is Surfside Cottage. You see a theme here? Lots of summer, water, lake kinds of things. This is on a lovely piece of 28 count Country French blue linen. And I did that in the day that was designated. Looks like my tension is tight down there. What's going on? Maybe it's just the light showing through it. I like the way it's two-tone and that the roof is as well. So I really don't think that's going to take forever. I don't think that'll take a week. So I don't have a firm plan for what I will do when something takes less than a week. I have one more. This piece is killing me. This was a Maynia start last year. I screwed it up that day, and I screwed it up when I took it to the Midwest Cross Stitch Retreat, and I'm determined not to take it out. I showed you all before. I don't even know. That I only did the tiniest bit on Maynia. I thought I'd have more that day. I don't know what happened. I got the cake part done or something in that neighborhood. I don't know what happened. My husband's working at home sometimes, and when he's around, things don't go as planned, because I think he's gonna work till 5, and then at 3 o'clock he's done, and he's like, oh, we need to do this. And you know, there's more than you can imagine landscape work that needs done here. The landscape is incredibly elaborate and intensive because, understandably so, I expect the same thing to happen to me. They kind of aged out a little bit. That's probably not a nice thing to say, but their interest level sort of waned, and I think their ability level. A neighbor was telling us some of the limitations that started to occur in the later years. So a lot of the landscaping has been neglected and overgrown. It's beautiful that every time I turn around, there's some other plant I didn't expect blooming. So I think it's very well thought out, and that there's always something in bloom somewhere throughout the whole yard. Anyway, that stuff is intense. And you can socially distance when you're down on the ground digging in the flowers, or it just a lot of it takes 2 people, because there's like a lot of things that have started to grow inside of another plant, like a group of irises with something in it that doesn't belong there, and so that takes some work. Not that I'm disrupting irises right now. That was just an example, because there's some beautiful bearded irises out there. So anyway, Monday of a very unexciting week. I got a few errands that must be attended to, but the general, like, couple of places I go, it's like an in and out. One place I have to go and spend some time, there's nobody else there. So that kind of stuff, just stuff. You know, in New York, we're in phase 2. Phase 2 got adjusted a little bit, and some things that are, I think there's some clarity. You're allowed to get a haircut now, but you're not allowed to have any other salon type things done. Offices are allowed to have 50% occupancy. Stores are allowed to have people in it, but only a couple, and there's direct, you know, everything has to be directional. But not the malls, because you could congregate. They can't really control the congregating. I think as time goes by, like the news isn't reporting every day everything that's going on in every county, so it's sort of slipping to the back of our minds. My husband and I went out yesterday just to go. I had to take him to where he left his truck, because he was getting the boat from the marina. And we ran into the little mini mart or whatever. We got some gas, and then I went into the little grocery store to get a Sunday paper. And, you know, I had my mask on. You don't do that. You're not allowed in. Came home with the newspapers. I didn't wash my hands after I came home. And it was after I was, I don't know, walking around doing some things. I thought, 2 months, and the complacency and the, like, forgetting. You just forget. You just suddenly start doing what you do. So, you know, usually I change my shoes, which I may have, I don't really remember, indoor, outdoor shoes, that kind of thing, especially after being in a mini mart. But we had masks on, but I have like wipes in my car, and I usually come in, and where we come in, there's the laundry area, and there's antibacterial soap. I wash my hands, and, you know, I go out once a week. But I was like, how quickly we forget. It's just not being pushed into the forefront of our brain like it used to be. I remember going out the first couple times, and you're like a deer in the headlight, like the molecules are just going to bombard you. That was even before masks were recommended, but anyway, you didn't do anything without like wiping your hands or everything. So still, when I go to the grocery store, I avail myself of lots of their free wipes by the entrance. So anyway, we are all safe and sound. My kids and so on are all safe and sound. So we're hoping to have a smooth summer with lots of stitching time. Aren't we lucky to have a hobby like that? So anyway, back to our Monday mornings. See y'all. Bye. Just kidding. I'm back. forgot the piece. This was the piece that I worked on at the very end of Maynia. It wasn't my last day one. It was a day that I knew I could have lots of work time. This is the Lucas pattern that I chose when mybobbin.com. Go to the website, check out the cross stitch. You'll be there for a while. It's lovely. When they asked me to choose something and then talk about it. So this was one of the things, patterns that a kit. This was a kit that I chose, and I have loved every minute of stitching on it. I'm setting up one of those thread organizers. It's long and skinny, and you poke the needles in it, and you can keep your thread in the needle and make a note by your needle of what your thread is, and makes it easier. The pattern is 8 pages, 11 by 7, and it's just a jumble of pages because they're not, the pattern is printed large on it, which is nice, but it's just a jumble. I tried copying the two. There's none of that gray overlay on the pattern, so I copied the pattern pieces and I taped them together, but then still I get somewhere up where I'm out of the picture and I'm back to having to straddle the 2 pages, and they're just big. So it's cumbersome, and you really have to settle in for a while if you're going to work on it. So let me just make sure it's not upside down. During Maynia, I just got a little bit of these vine and a part of a leaf done, and then I wanted to work on it all the way up until yesterday, May 31st, and get as much progress as I could. So the dragonfly is in, one of the pumpkin buds, flowering bud is in, and then this stretch of brown is a pumpkin. It kind of falling into shadow. It's this little part here that I did, and there's the dragonfly. My goal is ultimately, my first aim is to do this pumpkin and the things, and it's pretty. The thread is anchor. So first time I've knowingly used anchor, and I like it. So no complaints. I worry if I run out of a color, am I gonna have trouble finding it? When I started on this pumpkin, I thought, oh cool, I can't wait to work in some more of the oranges. The oranges are so pretty, the greens are too. And then I'm starting with brown. I had to look at the picture, I'm like, really, brown? So anyway, I finished the Jardin Privé Marquis yesterday, like right after supper, and I just wasn't into pulling this out. No, maybe it was all the way 8 o'clock, and I'm not I don't stay up late. Usually I head to bed by 9 and then read until I go to sleep. So I only had like an hour, and it seemed like a lot to do this, so that's when I got out Rovaris's Beach, which I just showed you, where I worked on a little bit of the slingback beach chair. So anyway, there we go. We're all caught up, back on track. This time it's goodbye for real.